Buddy, I'm totally wowed by the number of people here. I'm Jim Moulton. I'm the Executive Director for Stagecoach Transportation Services. Aaron Little is the Regional Director. My role, as well as being the Director for Stagecoach, I'm also the Director of Addison County Transit, so I actually oversee transit from the Connecticut River to Lake Champlain. So Aaron's primary role is to make sure that the Upper Valley services are run efficiently and effectively. And then Laura Perez, who's our Community Relations Manager, who does outreach to the public and provides information and can answer lots of questions as well. I have a question. Is everybody here a current rider of Stagecoach? Yeah. Wow, this is incredible. No, says one person, but he would like to be, so. All right, that's great. Really fabulous. So we're holding these public hearings because we're looking at our current services and we're trying to add capacity and make the services better for the current users and to grow it so more people can use the services and take advantage of what we have out there. We are looking specifically at the river route down the I-91 corridor. On screen you see the current service that you are familiar with. There are 3 runs in the morning, 3 runs in the afternoon. They run at different times, not necessarily easily predictable, and not always doing the exact same stops in the exact same order. So, thank you, Laura. So their bus stop times are inconsistent and irregular. The river route trips 1 and 2, they run 5 minutes apart from each other, which isn't particularly efficient from a transit system perspective. 2 and 3 run 15 minutes apart from each other. It creates efficiency problems and particularly less service because we've got buses, as you probably know and experience, often pulling in, you'll be pulling in while the other bus is pulling out. And there are some inconsistencies. None of the morning buses stop at the Norwich Inn, for example, but 3 evening buses stop there. The routing of the, or they did in the past. Did we eliminate the Norwich Inn yet? No, not yet. Okay. So, and the route of the evening bus creates a pattern which sometimes, as you've probably experienced, creates an overflow on some buses and low ridership on others. And we don't do a particularly good job right now, I don't think, of connecting with advanced transit for people who want to make those connections as well, because it's not just about necessarily riding on one particular vehicle at a time. And currently, officially, the service actually only runs in one direction. You come down in the morning, go back in the evening, but it's not open to people who might want to travel in the other direction for other reasons. And there's no midday service, which makes it purely commuter-based only. Obviously, you work here, you are commuters, but our goal is to serve as many people as we can in as many ways as we can and provide more options for people. There might be days where you only work half a day, you'd like to go home and halfway through the day, and you can't. So those are days you end up choosing not to ride the bus. It's not friendly. Employment connectivity. So we've talked to different people at the administrative level at the 3 major employers, obviously here in the Upper Valley, what we consider the 3 major employers for this service: the VA hospital, Hitchcock here, and the college, and looking for drop-offs nearer to the half hour to try to accommodate most riders. Laura, I'm sorry, is this the current or what we're looking to do, the 15 minutes before and 5 minutes before, just to make sure?
This is what we're looking to do by improving the connectivity.
So for those riders coming into Hanover that would drop off 15 minutes before noon or the top of the hour, the east entrance would be 5 minutes before. Colburn Hill would have drop-offs on the half hour and the hour, and the VA hospital for riders going there would have 5 minutes from the drop-off to clock in. Our morning buses would arrive 3 to 8 minutes. I'm going to jump over the VA since that's not directly relevant here. Morning buses would arrive 3 to 8 minutes before the green line for advanced transit for people wanting to connect there, and in the afternoon arriving 2 to 7 minutes before, allowing the Stagecoach passengers to connect for people who want to use the advanced transit system. Next slide. If people have questions, we will have lots of time at the end for questions and answers, but if there's something that's really important that you want to ask about along the way, please feel free, and one of us will do our best to answer at that point in time. We're looking to simplify the routing to follow a common alignment that's consistent, so that the first trip, the second trip, the third trip, it doesn't matter which one you're riding, you know that what the next stop is always going to be, kind of like a subway system in a city. It doesn't change where it stops each time. You're going to get the same ones every time. We're looking to add Centera Business Park as a regular stop. I know that there are people who ride it now and you're either trying to catch the shuttle bus over there or you're trying to walk across Route 120. And the feedback we've heard from you is that's not very convenient either way. So providing a direct seat to Centera Park. Connecting to the Greyhound station in Wet River Junction, which may or may not be useful for you, and providing reverse direction service, which again may or may not be useful for you, certainly not necessarily on a daily work basis, but you might have reasons to want to ride it in the other direction at other times. It will also provide more service to the VA Medical Center. Currently our service, we get one drop-off there each morning, one pickup in the afternoon, which isn't particularly useful for them. And again, our goal is to try to maximize what we're doing out there, provide the maximum level of service. One of the things that public transit systems, particularly in Vermont, we get measured on our performance, how many trips we're providing for the cost, what's the cost per trip, and how many trips we're providing in any given hour of service. And we really need to boost those efficiencies to continue providing that service out there.
So, Jim, this has gone over all for some reason. Now I'm going to take it right back to the schedule so that we can get into the details of the proposed schedule.
All right, so actually, Aaron, I'm going to let you talk about the proposed service since you are much more familiar with those details.
So in the morning, what we've done is we've aligned the 3 trips to be about half an hour apart from each other, and they are set to arrive at the start times that Jim had mentioned earlier. So all trips starting in Wells River, and they provide consistent connections to the employment centers. One to point out, at the VA hospital, there was only 1 trip there before, now there's 3. We're going to be able to provide service to all of the locations for Hitchcock, including Centera, and also moving down into the Heater Road area. We've got the arrival times to be set just prior to the start times for those locations. We've also added on the reverse commute, as you'll see, it connects. You'll see there's requests to downtown White River Junction on Prospect Street. There's a new facility there for the state offices that have moved over, the Upper Valley Haven, and then some of the feedback we received from prior discussions was that they wanted to see some additional service along the Route 5 corridor. So we have a stop at King Arthur Flower. We also have a new mid-morning trip to serve some off-peak. Additional market there would be for off-peak commuters and other services. There's some vocational rehabilitation services that provide work opportunities for individuals in the program. So there's a time to commute down for that, also for medical appointments. And then we have a midday trip comes down as well. And then in the afternoon, you'll see here what starts the 3 afternoon trips provide revenue service with request stops at all of our standard locations. And then if we switch over to the northbound, let's see.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So those request stops, so the X means nothing, right? Nothing happens? What are the X's?
Yeah, the X means that the bus does not stop at those
Doesn't
locations.
stop. So the request, those PM southbound requests, does that mean that the option there is you could get on in Bradford and get off at Thetford?
That's correct.
Okay,
If you need to get on, you can call to our administrative office. We'll have a number for you to call. And then the bus will go in, we'll notify the driver. If any of these request stops become a regular recurring location, the idea is then it could be converted to a hard stop every single trip.
and if you were getting off, like at the Greyhound stop, could you just tell the driver when you got on?
Absolutely. Anytime there's a request and the passenger's already on the bus, you can just make a request.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Yes, please.
So, the 250, 320, and 350 out of Bradford, that you have a possibility of 2 other stops to get off the bus. It doesn't keep going all the way into.
It does. When we switch over to the northbound side, you'll see where these trips become the northbound trips in the afternoon.
Oh.
So they're actually going to make additional stops. Basically, due to the size of the schedule, we had to break it up in a northbound, southbound. When it's in a pamphlet, you'll be able to open it up and see both trips all together. So we'll see that in a moment. There's another question?
So you were saying that for the afternoon stuff, first, it's really cool that you're expanding this, I really appreciate it.
Thank
It's very
you.
helpful. You had said that these new afternoon ones were, for example, for medical appointments, but it looks to me like they're only for medical appointments at the VA, right? And you don't come to the Hitchcock.
We do, and actually, again, when we get onto the northbound side,
Oh, it was.
yeah, and the way we had the timetable set up here, and this may be revised to as we develop it for the pamphlets. But these stops are listed here in that order because of the morning piece, and now because of the afternoon piece, you'll actually see those stops on the northbound side and the reverse.
But what I'm asking is,
Sorry.
if I took the 920 out of Bradford, I couldn't get to the Hitchcock without going through the department.
On the reverse, I believe, I don't have it here.
That's the southbound.
Do you want to go to the next slide?
Can we just
Oh,
jump
does
over?
that show it? Okay. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Let's check and see here. So actually, it does not list those as stops.
Right.
So Aaron,
The idea is to transfer to the AT buses.
well, the other thing is that there were X number of stops, so this could be a request stop. But we haven't.
Okay.
Okay.
And
So
that could
it's in the
potentially
works.
be requests,
Right.
absolutely. And certainly connections to the AT buses as well will be an option. Thank you, very good point. On the northbound side, were there any other questions on it? Go ahead.
Are you not stopping at Gilman anymore?
We can, we're not, the idea was that all of the offices had moved over to the Prospect Street, but we're going to be going right by Sykes Avenue, so if there is a need there, I think we can easily meet that.
Can you never bring him back?
Yeah. But no, the idea is we won't make a hard stop there.
I see you're not stopping at Norwich either.
No.
You listen.
And again, these times are all proposed because we see some need for tweaking.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's an important point, which I may not have made very clear at the beginning, is that the purpose of having public hearings is to get your feedback, because we'll start with our process, informal, and talking to employers and talking to individuals and drivers and this and that, but we're not going to get it right. So we want to bring it to you because you're the people out there who it's directly impacting, so we want to get your feedback. So absolutely. So whether you feel able to provide very specific information here, whether you want to provide it by email afterwards or call the office and talk to Laura or Aaron, whatever way works for you best to provide the information. But we absolutely, the maximum information we get from you, the best possible service we're going to configure, and the greater need that it's going to solve.
Absolutely. So on the northbound side, thank you, Jim. On the northbound side, you'll see the reverse commute. Now it's going to be in revenue service going back up to Bradford area. And that's going to be key for potential opportunities for individuals who travel the opposite direction or need to spend a part of a day because they'll have a midday trip to be able to return on. And then in the evening, again, we have King Arthur Flower on the Route 5 corridor, Upper Valley Haven, Prospect Street, and the VA Hospital. So on the way down to the VA Hospital, this is still part of the southbound trip. And the bus will get off in Norwich and then come down Route 5, and so there'll be a request for these locations here, and then it's going to get to the VA hospital, and from there, it'll start picking up at all the Dartmouth locations and doing the reverse commute back up all the way to Wells River. We have the Newbury Park and Ride is listed on there. They're all hard stops. I heard some potential feedback that not every stop will be required, and those could be converted to a request. If we see that there's a location that just doesn't make sense to go there unless somebody's on the bus, that could be converted to a request.
Could I ask you a question?
Yes,
Had you
please.
ever considered, I don't know how many buses are at your disposal, but the VA, White River, King Arthur, that whole, those 3 runs being just on that side of the whole 89 mess that we go through right now, getting over to the VA, back all the traffic around 120, you know, keeping Hitchcock and the college and all of that on 3 buses and the whole VA side on 3 buses.
I see what you're saying. With the way that these are now aligned, they're more Dartmouth and or Hitchcock and the college centric, if you will, with the VA being kind of on the 3rd area, so to speak. As far as separating them out on a completely different route at this time, there hasn't been any plan on dividing that out into a completely separate run.
If we were to divide it out, it would either require a lot more money to put more buses on the road, or pulling some of the service that currently exists here and switching it, so reducing the number of options for College of Hitchcock employees. But as Erin is saying, we're rerouting them in a way that hopefully all 3 routes now are making the College and Hitchcock the primary stops, and the VA sort of 3rd in that tier, because that's just what the ridership patterns have been. I mean, it makes sense that we're serving those institutions which have the greater ridership as the first response.
So the second bus, the 415, most of the VA, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys on the first bus, they get out at 4 or 4:30, right? 4:30. So what, the second bus is gonna get really full. Did anybody get out early enough for VA to pick a 345 up?
No.
I didn't.
We asked them yesterday.
Huh?
We asked yesterday.
Okay.
Nobody here does, or
No,
nobody?
at the VA.
They don't.
Ah.
Yeah, so the problem is the second bus, especially as the winter comes through, gets full. And we start leaving people when they come up through the Dartmouth area. So the concern is that we're not going to have enough room
Okay.
on that second bus.
It will definitely fill up.
Well, the
It
first
will.
bus, the last bus, does that get fuller too?
The 5 o'clock man, you said no.
The 4:45 on the second bus gets really full, like we're getting to the college and we're counting seats to see if there's
Yeah.
enough people for them to sit down.
the winter.
But
That's
I would
without the
take,
VA on it.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
take the
without-
earlier bus and not be on the second bus. If I have the opportunity to get out at 4, but I don't want to ride over to the VA. And
No, yeah.
because really, because I get on in Wells River and I get off in Wells River and I'm the first and last. So instead of taking the 4:15 bus, by the time I ride all the way over to the VA and take that bus, it's really, right now, it's only a difference of 15 minutes for me getting home to Wells River. And I'm loving this, this bus that's going to leave here at 4:15 and not go over to the VA. If that means I'm going to get to Woodsville or Wells River at 5:37 as opposed to 6:10 or 6:15, I really appreciate
And
that.
if I'm hearing
And then I
this,
wouldn't be on that second bus.
if I'm hearing this correctly, I'm not saying this solves it for everybody who's asking the questions, but what I'm hearing is that if the VA folks are few and far between who would get on here, this bus then here will have lots of seats available.
Right.
Right.
And the concern is that because people are getting out at 4, if they pack it up here, then by the time it gets here,
In the winter. it's-
there
In the winter.
won't be. And then especially if we get to the college, then
Right,
those
yeah.
riders could be out.
We've had to leave people behind.
So is this useful enough, this first run, for this group, that it minimizes the pressure on this, or not really?
You'll probably hear more at the VA meeting for the 3:45 time.
Right, but what I'm hearing and what I'm sensing is that, clearly, there are more people in this room right now than who who are from the VA. So we want to accommodate not only you, but ideally even more people. So I guess the question I'm trying to at least answer in part is, does this capacity here, because it essentially means that the VA isn't going to be filling it up, does this alleviate some of the potential pressure that's put on this one?
I think so. It would for me.
Yeah, it sounds,
What
yeah,
time do you get
I'm
out?
hearing definitely for you.
Definitely for me. And what about college people that get out at 4? Would they would ride that 4:15 bus as opposed to waiting for that second?
Right, I would think.
They
yeah.
They
get
go
out
over
at
to
4.
Norwich now.
What?
The people that get out at the college, they ride the AT bus and get on in Norwich on the first bus now.
Okay,
So
so they're,
it's not
so they're already migrating to that first bus, is what
Right.
you're saying.
Right.
We have a number of people that get out at the college. And I know that one of my friends gets out at 4, but she doesn't get on until that second bus that I ride.
So that might work then. I mean,
So that she would go on the earlier bus as
No, I
opposed
see
to
what
being
you're
on
saying,
that.
there's just like sometimes 9 people that get on at the VA on the second one.
Right, and in the winter more.
In the winter more, and there's not normally that many that get on at the college on the second or third bus.
So just one of the things too about what this service does is, even if the 3:45 is early for some of the VA passengers now, is that there's only ever been one bus coming in there, and that was the second one that's full. So we feel like there's a possibility about this consistency in the way the buses are routed, and also more options at the VA that they won't all sort of be forced onto using one bus, that there's a couple other options with that too.
So I catch the bus down at Heater Road, and right now it picks up at 4:35 in the afternoon for me, which is great because I get out at 4:30.
Okay.
So those times there, for anybody who gets out at 4 o'clock, they're gonna have to wait a half an hour for a bus. Well, no, they get out at 4, 4:30 at 5.
oh, right, right.
The 5 o'clock wouldn't be an option because if they get out at 5, there's no bus.
Okay. So 5 minutes earlier?
5 minutes earlier is great.
5 minutes.
Later, 5 minutes later.
I mean, later,
I'm sorry.
right.
I'm sorry.
I shouldn't agree.
I was thinking it should be later, and then you said earlier, and I'm like, oh.
No, later.
I think another course of panic for us too is that we're used to the first bus starting here.
Yes.
And now it's going to start at the VA. You know, it's gonna be fun, but we hope.
When you say it enough, you'll believe it.
Well, I think something else that's also probably very important to hear is that whatever changes we do make and whatever service we do put on the road is not the end game. Because we'll continue to learn. And you as riders will continue to learn also. Like you may find that, oh, one particular bus actually serves your needs better than you thought it would. Or that, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 of them serve your needs better than. So we'll also be actively looking for your feedback ongoing so that we can, you know, as we call it, typically tweak the service moving forward as well. So this is not your only opportunity to have feedback.
Are people allowed to get on the bus and not have a seat to hang on?
We do allow standees.
You
Yes.
do? Okay.
Generally, the industry best practice is no more than half as many standees as you have seats on the bus.
There's also sometimes weight limit considerations. You know, the vehicles are designed for a certain gross vehicle weight, and so we can't exceed that also, which doesn't always translate exactly into that math.
So would you allow standees, say, from Hanover all the way up to Wells River? Because I know that didn't used to be allowed.
That is correct. The prior practice for the organization was not to allow standees, and you know there are clearly debates about how safe or unsafe is that. From a legal perspective only, public transportation is exempt from seatbelt laws, but that doesn't mean that makes it ultimately as safe as possible. But you know, industry studies also tell you that bus transportation is actually the safest mode of transportation compared to auto and to.
Yeah, I've ridden with some scary people.
Pardon?
So I've ridden with some scary people, so yeah, I'd say bus is the best one.
Right. So, you know, our primary goal is never to leave anyone behind. And I know that's been a frustration in the past, that people have either been left behind or they've been forced to really change their day on that particular day in order not to be left behind. So that's our goal. And so the allowing of standees is something that we think helps with that. We need to make sure that we get straps for all the buses.
That was the biggest problem. That's,
I know that there are stanchions there, but I think the straps just didn't.
yeah.
So that'll be helpful.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
I've been trying to ask a question. So
Sorry.
Has there been any thought to, that I don't work at the hospital, and I would like to use this bus service because I live right near the park and ride in Thetford. But my work schedule is closer to like 8:30 to 5. I mean, certainly the bus coming 15 minutes later in the morning, the last bus, it would be helpful to me. But I guess I just wondered, has there been any consideration to, having later bus runs that would,
Later evening bus runs?
both morning and evening?
Okay.
I mean, I'd be interested in either one. I mean, I could make it work the way it is now, especially, with the revision, but it would just make it easier on my mornings, if there was, especially, and evenings, 'cause
What is your
sometimes,
ideal time in the morning to get picked up in Thetford?
I would say, 8 or 8:15.
In fact.
Yeah.
And then what was your ideal departure from?
Well,
this
I
area
would, I guess
roughly?
I would like it if there was a 5:30 option.
I see.
That bus focus, basically, out of half hour.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
You had a,
I was just gonna say, I appreciate the standing in the aisle, because I'm an irregular bus user, specifically because I waited through 3 buses at the Thetford stop and not been able to get on numerous times. So I tend to sort of carpool to the stop, ride in with my husband, but then take the bus home. And I agree with Eric, when you discussed about the 5:30 from here would be great, because my schedule's irregular, so it's hard for me to always get on the 5.
I want to take your question, then if anybody else has a question, I just want to add one other thing in between. So.
Yeah, I just was gonna vote for the later return trip also, like this 5:15, I mean, for a while there it was 5:05 or something, but for people who, having a later option would be even
In here.
5:30 at the pickup, yeah. Just for people that aren't necessarily clocking out at a specific time, it's nice to have to know that you have the flexibility to go later if you need to.
So what I wanted to toss out there, and there are some brochures out there, I don't know if there's still any left, but we also have a newer program called the Guaranteed Ride Home program, which is sort of like an insurance policy that if you came in on the bus and then something in your workday changed that caused you to either need to leave early before any buses were ready to go out or later because something changed, you can get up to 6 times a year, up to $75 per time to pay for, typically it's going to be probably taxi transportation home. So that you have that sense of if your situation changes, you're not stranded. So if you have sort of a regular desire to stay later, then we're talking about a bus schedule change. If it's a once in a while kind of thing, there could be another way to help address that problem. So if you don't have that information or are interested, hopefully there are more out there. But if not, you can email us and we can send you that information as well.
I get the whole time thing though, because even that last 5 o'clock pickup bus is still not getting to Wells River until 6:37.
Yeah, it's inevitably it's a long trip. I mean, I will have to say I am amazed at how far some of you come to work here. I'm just like amazed.
I've been running for a long time and the bus ride home, it's an hour and a half every day. It's worth it. I mean, we put up with it, but it's a long time.
We have 12-hour days. Those of
We
us
have
that
12-hour
start,
days.
that start, in Wells River, and that's our choice, to work here. It's our choice to do that. But our day, we have 12-hour days.
Right.
And I live in Bradford now, something like that.
And I think that's that's one of the things that we're trying to make better for you is to reduce the amount of time you have to spend on the bus.
Or waiting for the bus. If you change the 5:15 to 5:30, then I'm going to have to wait a half an hour instead of just 15 minutes. So hopefully that won't change.
And obviously, as veteran riders, you get that there has to be a certain level of
That's right.
Give and take for everybody. It's just sort of inevitable that But our goal here is to take what's out there now and improve it. And even if it's small and incremental improvements, it's improvements. And to create greater access so that more people can use it. Because the numbers drive everything. And the more rides we give, the more access there is to funding to go to, an earlier question about is there even the possibility of separating, the New Hampshire side and say the Vermont side of the service. The more rides we generate, then the more evidence there just is of the demand and the need, and it creates those opportunities to put grant applications out for federal funds to try to expand. So,
I don't know how I got on this website, but it's called Zimride.
mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that? And it's so interesting.
It's a ride sharing software.
How much carbon you're saving,
Mm-hmm.
how many dollars you're saving,
Mm-hmm.
and how much time, or like 3 really interesting facts. And they just go, they send you a map of the month, and you just take your handful or whatever and put it on the dates that you do it in the morning, the afternoon, and then at the end it tells you how much you've saved. And so I can send that, or you guys send it out to everybody.
Yeah.
It would be.
So I want to share 2 statistics with this group in particular. In this past fiscal year, which for us is July 1 to June 30th, you as Hitchcock employees took 20,000 trips on our buses alone. And that saved almost 200 tons of carbon. Those are big numbers.
So the price for non-college, non-Hitchcock is $30 a week or $3.50 a ride. And I know some folks who aren't taking it because the gas prices now are offsetting it.
Mm-hmm.
And it would seem that if there's a way to reduce, and I try to encourage people all the time to take the bus. That $30 is $120 every 4 weeks. If there's any way that could be reduced, I think you see more non-Hitchcock, non-college, non-VA people pick it up. If the gas prices go up, then we start seeing reforms. But this point in time,
Or the snowbirds.
yeah.
They really go for the winter.
Yeah.
We're in their heart, too.
Yeah, I know, but people don't think that short term. They think short term, $30, $30. So,
It's also a time factor too.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I drive all summer just because I stay up later and I can sleep in.
but I think in general, when I'm trying to recoup,
Yeah.
But
that $30
I get on, like back on in
Yeah.
September,
I
but
think if even you're
I can
using,
get home so much quicker.
Right.
you're used to 25 or something, people might, there might be like a little price break that all of a sudden works for folks.
Yeah.
An incentive,
Right.
to get new riders.
Well, I think, we want to be open to any idea and any suggestion because you never know what's going to create the tipping point for people.
One thing I like here on the, your arrival time is like 5 minutes earlier, and I appreciate that, especially at the east entrance, because I have to log in at 7 o'clock, so you have to be on the force.
Mm.
So I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
So, at this point, the bike racks are on from mid-April to mid-October, is that correct?
They're actually supposed to be on year-round. We've had some challenges with some of our aging fleet, and so we have several buses that are not currently equipped that are being retrofitted as soon as possible. So every bus should have a bike rack.
That was easy.
That's his question.
Yes, absolutely. The idea is, our aim is to always have them on year-round.
But actually, as long as I'm here, so do you have any sense of how, and I only live here part of the year, the nice part as well, the warm part, but you get a sense that there's, my experience the past few years, for instance, I never see 2 bikes on a rack. Is it kind of a boutique demographic? Do you sense that it's becoming more, there are people trying actually to live more on their bikes?
I can speak for the Addison County area, which is our bike racks over there get a lot of use. I'm always amazed at how much use they get. But we're also typically talking about shorter trips. And so I'm not sure if boutique is necessarily the right word, but it may just be that it's a different general profile of the transportation need. So that I think, on long highways, people probably are, on a long 12-hour day, not thinking about, I want to tack on, another 20, 30, 40 minutes of bike riding at either end. It's just a guess, but.
See, for me, I don't mean to monopolize. For me, it's 10 minutes either. But
Yeah.
that's just because of where my place is.
Right.
But
Right.
It's not always 40 minutes.
I've seen in history in Vermont where some routes will historically usually always have bike space available, and then there's routes where passengers are literally trying to beat each other to the bus stop to get the bike on the bus. So it depends on the corridor.
We don't have that problem on the river.
Another question?
Well, I just would encourage you, like, for example, sometimes I don't ride because of the distance I live from the park and ride, and but I didn't even know you had bike racks on the front of those. Like, I guess I've never really looked, so maybe that will change. So I would just encourage you to, like, in your marketing, to let people know about that kind of multimodal thing, like connecting with advanced transit, or riding their bike to the station. Like people don't realize that there may be other, ways they can get there or ways they can connect with where they want to go.
So here's a question. If there were Wi-Fi on the buses, does it matter?
Oh, no.
No.
I sleep anyway. We'll drive your bus behind us. I mean, the bike.
If you could get out of work half an hour earlier if there was Wi-Fi on the bus, would you do it?
No, can't get out a half hour earlier.
All right. So I'm hearing from this group anyway that Wi-Fi is not a difference maker.
No.
It might be for people who aren't in the room.
That's not the way we have to talk now.
Not in this part of the state. Pick it up.
So
Yes?
I know that you have a lot of, information that you're collecting, but do you have a ballpark idea of when you might be implementing these changes?
Our goal is to have service by late October
Wow.
on the road.
Great.
Great. Any other questions?
Are you actually going to publish this in, like, say, the Valley News and stuff, so people really are aware that they've got to go to King Arthur's and they can do this? Because I don't think anybody really knows.
We're gonna do a lot of publicity around this, just because, I don't think enough people know about what exists currently, let alone that there are hopefully going to be improvements which will make it easier for people who may have at one point wanted to use the services and it didn't work. So yeah, we need to and will do a lot of marketing.
Are you going to the college for the same?
Yes. Oh, actually, I said yes because we asked and asked and asked, but we didn't actually get a confirmation from them. But it's something that we do want to still get as direct feedback from the college and we're in the VA after this meeting, actually.
And then to the Buckby Senior Center for Community Members. Yep. And then to Bradford at the Bradford Academy
Tomorrow night.
tomorrow night.
And do you still have,
Sorry.
I just wondered if you still had that information, if somebody's handicapped or they're coming down here for treatments, or that there's that shot that they can get a little special shuttle if they, I remember hearing about that because one of my friends had to do it for some treatments. And is that still part of the Stagecoach package if you put your application in that you can?
I think you're talking about the dial ride service?
Yeah.
Where you call and get individual rides?
Yeah, if you
Yes.
need it medically needed.
Yes. Yeah, we do have that, and it's something else that we need to get more information out to the community about. One of the biggest ways we provide those through volunteer drivers, people who volunteer their time. We reimburse mileage, so there's covering the cost of actually operating a person's car. But we're always looking for more volunteers. So if you know anybody who wants to volunteer, it's a pretty straightforward process. But if you or anybody else is interested, so yes.
I don't know if this story is ever shared with you, and I so appreciate everything that you're doing. About, I think it was last winter, the winter before, I ride the last bus down Falls River, and we stopped at Bear, and there was a lady from the community who who was undergoing cancer treatment, and we were full by the time we got to Fairview. And she didn't have any of the means to get down. She became very upset and teary-eyed and said, I'm supposed to be, making our way to Hitchcock for appointments. And we actually had a lovely gentleman who got off the bus and offered her his seat. And I know our driver at the time said, I'm really sorry, this is the last bus down. So I don't know if what you're talking about was offered at that time, but the bus driver, it wasn't.
No.
Yeah. Because I'm sure the bus drivers are in the know as to alternate means if someone needs that. Yeah, it was in the dead of the winter, it was a really cold day, and he didn't have to walk, he walked up to the local gas station and had his wife come and pick him up. It was a lovely gesture, but we all felt bad,
Right.
It's like, oh.
Yeah, for what it's worth, we're all relatively new to the organization, so looking at things, what has been the past practice and what can change, how can we make that work for people is something that we're also bringing fresh sets of eyes to Stagecoach. So, the standee piece of it is one of those pieces. And, adding times and all this kind of stuff is it's essentially fresh sets of eyes and looking to get feedback from you.
Right, and that was the issue at the time, because no one was allowed to stand.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
You had just, I just want to thank you again for all the thought you put into this, and I have a feeling that the White River Group might not be as happy with the changes as we are. Clearly, you've shortened our commute, and we're very DH-centric here, and it's really nice to see, because oddly 15 or 20 minutes makes a big difference to us.
Well, we're hopeful that they'll see the benefit of having more than one option as offsetting any additional time that they might need to ride. So,
Looking at our ridership data and letting the data drive some of the decision process is key to that.
they're not doing 20,000 trips a year. So,
I just have a quick question,
yes.
very easily answered. When can we stop the Gilman stop?
The Gilman isn't on here.
No,
it's not on so you're asking when?
currently.
Oh,
I mean, we're late. The
Is there
first bus
anything we need to
is
do
late to the
now?
VA
No, at this
every
point,
day
there isn't.
because we have to go to Gilman.
That's a good question, and I think the answer from a practical standpoint could be we could probably do it instantly.
And it may be that it becomes like a request stop, because there's just something in my head about someone that Voc Rehab hasn't moved yet, and there's someone who occasionally on the river route stops in.
There's
So-
a guy that works at the post office.
Okay,
And he most times goes over to the VA,
okay.
but he could go to the Greyhound stop.
Mm.
And there's a girl that we heard her office was moved, and then we have not seen her since they moved.
Hmm.
Okay.
I don't know.
Is there someone who picks it up and walks up from, she works down at the neighbor?
So we should look into those details, because
Yeah.
it sounds like
Should be going to the White River.
probably.
And there's a person.
Yeah.
No.
I think we can convert that relatively
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah, I mean, it would just, for those of us that ride for an hour and a half, it just seems to be such a
Oh,
waste of
yeah.
gas.
Every minute.
And time.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's great to see such a great turnout.
Thank you for your service.